everyone. Really appreciate you all joining this morning for us hosting the Navigating Teen Buying During a Pandemic session. It's great to see all of you today. Wish we could have been there in person. I know I've been associated with this organization from the very beginning when it started as the Catholic Athletic Directors Association, and now it's become more national. So it's great to see some new faces. Again, I've always looked forward to this meeting and sitting together with you. So with that, we've got a few. I'd like to make a few introductions. The format for today will be a roundtable discussion. We've called on a couple of your colleagues who were gracious enough to lend their support to the dialogue that we plan to have. First is Eric Wood, who's the athletic director of Bishop Montgomery High School in Torrance, California. And then second, we have Kyle Gilbert, who is the athletic director, St. Augustine High School in New Orleans. So we're excited to have them. And again, the format will be a little bit of a roundtable. We're going to go around and ask a few questions on 3 topics. We also have my colleague, Tim Nye, I should say, in the eastern part of the country. He's the senior sales director for Eastbay. We have Adam Wald on the call. He's the regional manager for the Southwest, and he'll be managing the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to chat or type those into that section. I myself, should have done it at the beginning, and Brian Sackinsky. I'm the senior sales director on the western part of the country for Eastbay. So again, really happy to have you joining us. Adam, if you want to post into the chat, if you haven't done already, the Eastbay uniform giveaway for attending the chat today. So
yep.
You got it there?
I'm going to put it in right now. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
And hold on. Should be in there, but I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure.
Okay, while he's working on that, we can kind of, basically the program as it works.
There you go.
Yep, okay, thank you. So as advertised, for those of you attending today, we're giving away a set of 25 uniforms at the end of this workshop that you must be present in order to win. So I'd love for you to all stick with us for this roughly 30 minutes, maybe 40-minute conversation we're gonna have. On the uniforms, we're going to take care of everything, the uniforms, the decoration, the shipping. And I'm sure that you have a team or two at your school that would love to have a shot at a set of these uniforms. Again, it's for your high school only, 25 sets of uniforms. And in order to sign up, all we need you to do is enter your information in that link provided in the chat that Adam sent out and hit submit. So please do that. Side note there, the age field, you'll see something in there as we get some of the legal folks involved, that the age field is something legal, again, as is put in there, and participants need to be over 13 years. So I don't think that'll cause or have any issues for us this morning, but just a note there. And again, we'll be pulling the winner live at the end of this workshop. So you'll know who that winner is once we wrap up at the end. So with that, we're excited to give that away. Thanks again for your time. And to kick off the meeting, I think I want to play an appropriate campaign that we have at Eastbay. So Seth, if you want to cue that up, that would be great.
Bigger, better, stronger, I stay ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I stay ready. Let's get it.
Still no days off.
I grind.
Grind.
When the lights come on,
Lights come on.
when those lights get lit,
Ready.
I'm ready. I stay ready.
I stay ready.
That whistle blow?
I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever.
Ready for whatever? Yeah, we ready for whatever.
Awesome. Thanks, Seth, for queuing that up. I think you hope you all found that pretty appropriate. That's one of our campaigns that we're running and we'll be running throughout the year through the various seasons and ready for whatever. And given what the last 8 months of dealing with the pandemic and the challenges that we have, I'm sure your student athletes are really embracing that program, or that slogan, I should say, in terms of being ready for whatever and doing what they can to either stay in shape. And some of you folks are in season and continue to play, and have to make adjustments there as we all deal with the pandemic. The good news is, reading this morning, I guess, is there's some positive news on the vaccine front. It'll take some time, I'm sure, to get here, but I hope you all are as excited as I was, at least to see some positive news that we are, we are sort of seeing maybe the potential on the other side of this. So that will be some welcome relief. I know myself, being a father of 5, would be a welcome relief to have our kids back out there playing and running around the field and bringing smiles to our faces. So as I mentioned earlier, the format today, we have Eric and Kyle today helping us out. We're going to run through 3 topics, and we're going to propose some questions and encourage the dialogue back and forth between these 2 athletic directors. And those topics are supply chain / inventory, planning for success, and then COVID update. And that last one there is just kind of an update on how we're dealing with that in 2 different locations across the country. And I know each of you probably have your own set of circumstances as well, but we'll again talk through some of those questions. So the first question, or first topic, I should say, supply chain and inventory. Eric, I'm going to pose this to you. First question: what are you hearing about the amount of available product in the marketplace? Off, Eric, mute. There you go.
We've been that we haven't really started too much yet. Our budget, we've been told not to spend money yet. So I haven't heard a whole lot, but I do know, just based on how a lot of things are going, that, time to get orders in is do it as soon as you can. That usually, like, stock items are probably going to be a lot easier to get more so than any custom type stuff. Because custom, we always have to order 6 months in advance, and we're finding out when we're going to start with about a month to go, if we're actually going to get to start to play.
Yeah, good. Thanks for that. And one of the things that we take pride in at Eastbay, and we're excited to sit down with you today, is I'm sure there's a lot of questions like Eric in the marketplace of where if you're not playing, when and what is the product availability going to look like. One of the things, again, that at Eastbay we take pride in is being sort of a consultant to our athletic directors. So what we're trying to do is provide you the best possible information that's in the marketplace. And what we're coming to see is, when the pandemic first hit back in March or April, there was sort of this overwhelming thought process about, what are we going to do? The country sort of was put on hold for a little period of time. A number of the manufacturers sort of decided at that point that they were going to sort of back off of any new products within the successive seasons until they had a little greater clarity on what this was going to look like. So what that meant was about a 6-month period, and I'll take Nike, for instance. My prior career to Eastbay was at Nike, and I have a great relationship with those folks over there, as does our company. And one of the things Nike did was they basically sort of put a hold on their product for about 6 months. So when I say a hold, I meant on developing new products. So they had a lot of inventory left in the market for the first few months, and then they sort of said, okay, for their spring product, their spring was now going to be sort of their summer fall, and then their summer fall product that they had already baked in the plan because they purchased it 6 months or manufacture it 6 months ahead of time was already baked. And then really where they cut back was the winter, basically, if you want to call it late fall winter product, where they basically said, we're going to roll with the fall that we already have baked, and we're just going to let that roll into the winter / early spring. So what that means for all of you as athletic directors, and Nike's not the only one, most of the manufacturers, if not all, were thinking this way, is they had a period of time that they were just going to roll with the inventory they had. So there's going to be a lack of inventory in the marketplace, especially if we all come back playing. I know the West Coast is still waiting to see whether they will come back. There will be a lack of inventory, so there will be a scramble. And as Eric mentioned, when he's thinking about custom uniforms versus stock, those of you who are still waiting to play, you're not going to be able to get a custom uniform because typically that's a 3 to 4 month window to provide a custom uniform from a manufacturer. So you're going to have to roll with stock. And even while you're not sure what your timetable looks like for playing in some cases, the message I would deliver is we should still plan for that because of that inventory challenge. So rely on us or any supplier. Even if you don't use Eastbay, I would say get with any one of your suppliers, and I would be making a plan in place or putting a plan in place ahead of time. Worst case scenario, if you don't play, then you can cancel that. There's, as far as Eastbay is concerned, there would be no strings attached. We could plan it. We can make sure we take a look at what inventory is going to be available for that specific coach. So hopefully that provides some feedback to that question and provide some level of knowledge. Tim, if you want to take the next question, please feel free.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, and thanks everyone for joining. I know as Eric was answering the question and Brian was going through it, I saw a few more of you join. So I'll just echo what Brian said at the onset of this. If you look in the chat, there should be a link that you can click on and register because we are giving away a set of free uniforms. So it'd be 25 uniforms total. And I just want to reiterate that it's for one of your high school teams. So not a team outside of your high school, it will be for one of your high school teams. So with that, this next question I'll pose to Kyle. Kyle, appreciate you joining us. And this is also around, supply chain and inventory. So Kyle, what are your suppliers telling you about timelines for uniforms? I know you use Eastbay, but along with Eastbay, if there's any other suppliers you use, what are you hearing from your uniform suppliers?
Well, right now we've actually kind of moved into our second phase of athletics because we started our football season like 4 weeks late. So like he said, that holdup at Nike was about 6 months. So it took us roughly till the end of August, early September to get our football uniforms in. So I think us having the season pushed back kind of helped with that timeline. Basketball wise, they're still running about 3 weeks behind on uniforms. We actually start playing this week, but the uniforms won't be here for another 2 weeks. And we kind of knew that ahead of time. Nike and Eastbay were pretty open with us about those things. I think the most difficult part is we're transferring from a Under Armour school over to Nike. So every team in our school has had to change over uniforms. So some of them couldn't go custom simply because of the timeline and time frame of things that are going on. And with the pandemic still pretty much in our face, like it's difficult for us to assume that these seasons are going to happen in the spring. So until I really get the go ahead to know that we're in season and we're getting ready to start playing, I really don't order the uniforms. So, on our side, I guess it's a delay because I don't want to order uniforms for a team that's not going to play any games. And on Nike's side, they're saying that they're so backed up that, it may be a week or two before that order is actually processed and actually in the door to actually even start building a uniform. So I think like at the end of the day, we're all kind of adjusting on the fly, and we got to really just be patient with each other, to be honest with you. I mean, that's the only way we're really going to kind of get through this thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Kyle, obviously you're in Louisiana, which is a state that's somewhat more open than, a state like California. But even with your schools and your teams, you have to wait for the go-ahead. So as Brian mentioned, just the planning and preparation and working together, and Brian said it as well before, just the Eastbay rep being your sales consultant and planning for it. And then once the floodgates do open, it's going to be, we anticipate the entire country whether
Right.
states are open right now or if they're going to be open in December and January. Everyone's going to want to order the stuff right away. Eastbay is really well known for our inventory when it comes to stock apparel, uniforms, and fundamental pieces, but we're not immune from running into inventory issues. And Kyle, you said it best. We just have to, we're in this together. We have to, kind of work with each other, and some things aren't going to be, what you want to hear potentially, but we're here for you guys and want to make sure that we can outfit your teams, and we'll just be as transparent as possible.
Right,
So,
Tim. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, just like you said, transparency, communication is key, and I think Daniel, our rep for sure, does an excellent job with just communicating to us and letting us know, up front, like, hey, listen, you need to get this in before this date, or it can push it back this long, or it can push it, so I think communication is the biggest thing. Like, I try to be open and honest with him about where we are, with our uniform process and how we're doing things. And we kind of work hand in hand, and I think it makes for a better team moving forward. I've always dealt with Eastbay, where no matter what school I was at, I've always kind of been like Eastbay for the most part. And I think with you guys, it gives you, like you said, a broader range of product and more inventory, because, sometimes Nike runs out of things and you guys may have it in your warehouse, which is crazy to me. But, I tell them all the time, I'm like, you're Nike, you're telling me you don't have it, but I can call them and I can get it from them. So,
No, I appreciate that. Thanks, Kyle. I'll kick over to Brian for the next question.
Yeah, I would say thanks, Kyle. Appreciate that answer. I would say specifically when it comes to inventory, I know I had a conversation with Nike the other day when it comes to shoes. Nike had to make some priorities for shoes, and they chose certain folks where they would prioritize in terms of who's going to get shoes when they were going to be in very limited supply from a manufacturing perspective. And given that we're a Foot Locker, and I assume everyone knows, but sometimes I make those assumptions. We're a Foot Locker company. So Eastbay sits under the Foot Locker umbrella. We do shoes. I think that's what we do best. Nike's prioritized us. I've heard it from Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, that when it comes to shoes, we are going to have shoes, and they're going to be limited in the marketplace from most of your other vendors and suppliers, just because of that, that manufacturing and those limited supplies. So just know that as well. Question that I wanted to ask Eric is, what are you seeing? I think for the group to kind of share this, Eric, is what are you seeing from any shipping delays? Shipping's a big topic here in terms of with e-commerce exploding with the pandemic. What are you seeing? Off of mute, Eric. Mute. That's okay. No worries.
There we go.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Like I was saying, I mean, we've actually been told not to buy anything. So, I mean, it's kind of hard because I haven't been able to order anything recently. But in talking with Tony, our rep, he's always been, he gets things to turn around pretty quickly for us. I think it just depends on what we're ordering. I know some of the priority items are probably going to be, because they're high demand, it might take a little bit longer for us to get them. But on the other side, if it's not necessarily a high demand item, I think it will have a decent turnaround.
Okay. Yeah. And Kyle, I know you mentioned shipping, right? Where you had some delays in terms of Nike and getting that. Specifically, I'll just share with the group the shipping again with e-commerce exploding and UPS and FedEx being taxed with all the shipments. And then with COVID and the pandemic, where you had to sit on some boxes, because I know at Eastbay, we had to sit 3 or 4 days on some boxes due to the fact that that COVID would be able to sit on a box for a set period of time. So we had to let it sit there when we received it. So there are going to be some challenges when it comes to shipping, specifically around the holidays. So I want the group to know that we're seeing that. I don't know, for those of you who are getting some product versus who may be waiting and thinking about the days of when we're going to play and getting product. Just, I think the biggest thing I would say is patience. There is going to be some delays, not only in some of the manufacturing, but some of the shipments as well, just based on the shippers themselves. So again, that's where planning is critical. Which leads us into the next topic. Yeah.
Sorry, there was something that came up on the chat.
Okay.
That was, so in California, since ADs are not allowed to go on campus, specifically San Francisco, shipping to school sites has been problematic. So I don't know if other people are seeing that around the country, but that's an issue.
Yeah, I think again is patience and flexibility. I think that's the key thing here for all of us, right? Is we're dealing with unprecedented times that none of us had been through. So again, as we're seeing these different delays and whatever, I think communication is key. No doubt what Kyle said, which is we're going to have to be really good communicators, because there's going to be things that are going to need to be done differently than maybe we have in the past, and work with one another on that and make sure we're providing you with the best possible information. And that's really the nutshell of the meeting today, was to try to arm you with as much information as we can based on what we see in the marketplace, especially when it comes to your product needs. So that leads us into the next topic, is planning for success. Tim, if you want to go with that first question, that would be great, as we look to see how we can be successful.
Yeah, so we've kind of talked about planning and forecasting. So Kyle, I'll ask you this question. How are your coaches planning for their inventory needs, knowing that it's going to be potentially last minute? How are they kind of working through that whole thing?
Well, for the most part, Tim, we're on a need basis. Like I have, like, usually, we would order just a bulk number and kind of keep inventory stacked just in case we added some kids or, something happened during the school year. But we're actually have went to an order form and basically ordering per kid now, so it kind of changed in that aspect, because we're trying to, just as well as we're purchasing new uniforms and things of that nature, we're kind of budget crunch because of the different things that are going on. We're Catholic school, so our enrollment's a little down with the pandemic and parents not being able to pay tuition and things of that nature. So we kind of had to adjust some things that we're doing school wide. So we really just I'm doing it on a sport by sport basis, and I tell the coaches up front and honest with them. I'm like, listen, if we don't need to order extra gear or extra set of these items, let's make sure we don't do that this year, just because of budget purposes,
Yeah, and that's kind of the message that, Brian and I, as well as Adam Wald, our regional manager, that we share with our reps too. So when they do meet with you or your coaching staffs, that what's the need, and make sure that we have inventory and we have that planned out, or we can access that inventory, and just kind of be in constant communication like we've talked about before. So, and you talked about budgets and things like that. So that kind of gets us into the next question, which I'll send over to Brian.
Yep, for you, Eric. So budgets, I think we're all wondering, I know on our side of Eastbay, and I'm sure many of you on this call, of trying to decipher what do budgets look like currently, and then maybe what are you doing or what are you thinking about in order to maximize those budgets. I know that's always a topic, pandemic or not, right? So give us kind of the lay of the land, if you will, Eric, in terms of what's happening and what you think is going to happen.
I know on the athletic side, my budgets have been cut almost 30%. So anything, like I usually get coaches polos, we usually get a few things, and all that's been slashed out of the budget for this year. Coaches have been told, I've had to tell my coaches that if you can still use last year's uniforms, you're going to have to use them. We're trying to really keep what we have, and we can order to a minimum, but with the budget's being cut that much, and then we have this whole transportation crazy issue that, it could explode with transportation if we have to use buses and we're only allowed a certain amount of kids on the bus at a time, which means more buses, which means that budget goes up tremendously. And I think part of that is just, knowing what the budget is, looking at some of our other options on fundraising, and also on, getting donations or getting, some other ideas on how to supplement our budgets. And that's, something I think we're going to look at doing, like team stores and things like that.
Yeah, so one of the studies, appreciate that feedback, Eric. One of the studies that we have done at Eastbay and then up through Foot Locker's company is feeling like with the pandemic, there's going to be something affectionately called revenge spending, right? So people are so frustrated with being cooped up and being in the house, and you're seeing some of that with the e-commerce and companies like that. People are purchasing and are buying, and they're sort of frustrated, right? So when you come out of that and you go outside, or you get outside for the first time, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to treat myself. This has been terrible. And you're going out and buying. And so what I think from a school perspective is, Eric mentioned, we offer those team stores. I do believe once we get back to playing, there will be fans. And me, again, mentioned earlier, I'm the father of 5 children, right, that play many different activities, that I'm probably, and my wife said it, I think, the best is, she said, when we get back, I'm going to want to buy some spirit wear. I'm going to want to buy some school stuff when they're getting back to playing. So I'd encourage you, whether you use Eastbay or not, but team stores in general, and we have a number of different ways to execute that, is to use team stores as a means to engage your student communities, right? In order to provide that fan wear and capture that revenge spending. We offer a fundraising component to that as well. And I think that's just a really good opportunity going forward, that when we do get back, I think parents are going to be very excited, and the kids, and to buy stuff for their kids, right? Because it's been a long time of sitting in the house, and there is going to be some major excitement out there. So if you haven't all done so already, I would think about engaging, again, your Eastbay reps or just reps in general about putting something up. So I think that's a great opportunity. Okay. Next, back to you, Tim, for the next question. I think we have one more on planning.
Yeah, so this is for you, Kyle, and Eric and Brian kind of talked about it with fundraising around team stores, but outside of that, is there anything else that you're doing to maximize your budget, to do fundraising? Are you looking to maybe go different avenues to try to generate more revenue for your budgets, or what does that look like for you?
We actually have. We've had to go to some external sources to do some fundraising things that we haven't done in the past, just to kind of up our dollar amounts, like in school. But the one thing that we're waiting on, that we're actually kicking off on this weekend, is our online team store. That's been the one thing that our fans, now that we're playing games, have kind of asked for. We started out at 250 allowed attendance. We're up to 1,000 on each side now. So we're able to kind of at least start recouping some of the money at the gate. Unlike, most states and most other parishes. In New Orleans, we basically share 3 stadiums between 12 high schools. So we all have to pay a rental fee for that stadium. And early in the season, we were basically taking losses because we still had to pay the normal rental fee, but we weren't allowed fans. Now that they've kind of upped the number a little bit, we're getting better at that. But the team store, I think, is going to be the one that kind of kicks off and helps us the most, because I think that's the revenue that we've kind of been missing out on. We've had a couple of T-shirt sales for certain games and things like that, and sold out. So I think, like, if our alumni and people around in the community have an opportunity to actually go online and purchase those items, I think it's going to be beneficial for us. One, because I think they like the Nike brand a little better than we were able to do with the Under Armour. And 2 is, our alumni base is really like, we have a really large alumni base in Washington, another one in Atlanta, and California has a pretty big one. So we have guys that are all across the country that attend to St. Augustine that really want to purchase items, and it's tough to, send an item in the bookstore and ask it to be mailed out to them. So I really just got with you guys and got with Daniel, and he was able to set up something, and we're going to launch our team store this week from basically through Eastbay, but coming out of our bookstore.
Yeah, and that's a key thing too. I'm glad you touched on it, Kyle. Our team stores, they ship anywhere within the 48 states. So they don't have to ship in bulk to the high school or to one location, and then the coaches have to hand them out. So that opens up a lot of possibilities depending upon, where you might have an alumni base, across the country, or even if it's within the area, but they're just not coming on campus. We can ship to their homes, and it makes it a little bit easier. And not every team dealer can say that. The only other thing that I wanted to touch on as well, Eastbay has partnered with the NFHS network, and we have access to pixel lock cameras. So I know everyone on this call probably has a different situation when it comes to having fans in the seats or in the stadium. So streaming games has been becoming really, really popular. So if you don't or haven't heard of the pixel lock camera, you can reach out to myself or Brian or Adam, and we can connect you with one of our reps to kind of talk about what that looks like. And there's some potential revenue opportunities with that as well. So next question kind of goes into just, a update around COVID, and I'll kick that over to Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Again, appreciate the answers and appreciate your support, Eric and Kyle, in terms of the feedback here. I would just say, too, as we move into requests for ticket lists and contact lists and, less touches, right? A team store there where you're ordering and the person's going online and shipping direct to their house. There's so many fewer touches and touch points across that, which becomes a much greater asset in the pandemic world where there's just fewer hands on stuff. So I think that's a huge advantage there. This last section was more just trying to get some feedback from the group and maybe sharing amongst one another. First question we had here is I would say is what policies and procedures do you have in place to ensure everyone is safe? So I know, Eric, you're looking to get back into play. Kyle, you have had some folks into play. What are we doing to make the athletes safe and then fans? I know, Kyle, you said limited attendance, but are there other things that we're doing in order to keep both the athletes and fans safe?
Yes, we are. There's a scan that they have to actually go through in order to get into the game. You have to fill out a what we call a COVID release form if you buy a ticket to the game, stating that you haven't had any symptoms or had any contact with anyone that's had the COVID, and submit to a temperature check upon entrance into the game. And we try to keep hand sanitizers at all entry points, and basically the concession stands have remained closed. So we're not doing any kind of hand-to-hand exchange of money. And once you're in the stadium, you're pretty much sitting down, and there's not a lot of movement.
Okay, Eric, any other?
Well, I know, for us right now, because we're not playing, but we are conditioning. So what we're allowed to do is conditioning. So we have a limit of how many kids are allowed on campus at one time. That's been set by our principal. And then we also have hand sanitizers for each team practicing. So we've got the stand-up station they can go and just swipe under. We've got cans of aerosol spray with disinfectant. So if they are using any equipment, it can be disinfected right away. We do the health screening before they even come on campus. One thing that we've done differently this year is our clearance. So in the past, they didn't have to do the complete clearances. And now just to come to conditioning, we're making them do the entire athletic clearance, which includes all the signing of all the paperwork and then their physical, and they have to have their physical updated. So we've done a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just we're getting close to the time, but I did want to ask this: what about face masks or gaiters? Are we feeling like those are going to be required? And is that pretty much going to be required both fans and athletes?
I think so.
Yes, it's definitely a requirement for us.
Okay. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. No, that's great. Tim, do you want to, maybe I'll just ask the last question here on this subject.
Sure.
We've got about 10 more minutes. And this one is more, I think, more just to understand what you guys are thinking, what you all are thinking in terms of what do you see for multiple sport athletes given the condensed season? So how are we feeling about that with the season shortened and condensed now and multiple sports? You know, they were sort of running up against one another before. I'm curious, what are you all seeing for that? Kyle or Eric, if you want to answer in terms of the feeling around how we're handling multi-sport athletes.
I think that at least for California, it's going to take away a lot of practice time. They'll be able to do it, but they won't be able to practice as much in their specific time, especially with the limited hours that they're allowed by CIF to practice. And then you also have the kids allowed to play club at the same time. So I think kids are going to get pulled in a lot of different directions. So I think the multi-sport athlete is going to be a lot less this year.
Yep. How about you, Kyle?
Yeah, actually, we're experiencing that right now. Our best basketball player in school plays tight end for us, and it's been a pretty different experience than what we've ever had in the past because, I mean, I'm asking the kid to do football practice on a daily basis, and then as soon as he's done with football practice, our basketball coach has actually adjusted the basketball team's practice to fit him being able to make it for their last 30 to 45 minutes of practice for installs and things of that nature. I think it's going to end up taking a toll on some of the kids' bodies, to be honest with you, because there's no downtime. You know, usually between football and basketball, you'll give a kid about a week or two just to kind of transform into that. I mean, we're basically going to be playing football into December. We don't play our state championships until the 27th and 28th of December. So basketball will be in full swing at that point. And, you know, kids are typically getting rest time in between that early December until late December and can usually come back after that little Christmas break and be ready to go for basketball. Well, that's not the case right now. You know, he's having to pull sleds on both ends, you know. So some days I feel sorry for him, you know, and I'll tell him, you know, let's ease off on this. You know, you really don't have to do this at practice. Let's just make sure you're here for install and you understand what needs to happen. And then he goes to basketball, and I think he does the exact same thing, you know, but at the end of the day, although the seasons are condensed, I think like by them being condensed, it kind of shortened the football season, extended the football season a little longer, but basketball kind of went on as normal. They didn't push anything back or move them back and say they're going to do it in the spring. They actually started practice October 14th, and they've been moving forward, you know, basketball wise. So I don't know, you know, it's a strange new world that we're living in right now. And I think everybody's kind of just learning on the go, you know. So I tell our coaches just to be careful with our athletes and make sure we're not putting too much on their plate, and just be smart. You know, that's the best advice I can give them with a kid that's doing dual sports, you know, and things of that nature. We're going to have the same consequences in about a week or two when we start indoor track, you know, here, because that's the majority of our football team, you know, that runs the indoor track season, you know, so they pushed that up to January. So it's going to, you know, your preseason training goes a little more in depth, like a little earlier. So, I mean, we're all learning on the go at this point, I think, Brian, you know, and as much as we can, you know, try to plan ahead. I know myself as a coach, I try to think forward as far as possible, you know, to plan out for things, but you really can't in this situation. You know, it's almost, if not day to day, it's definitely week to week, you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer. And I would just say, talking to my local football coach here at our high school in town, is we have to be flexible and we have to do the right thing by the player, right? So as coaches and athletic directors, that's tough sometimes. We're in the spirit of competitive, and you know, we just want to compete and we want to win. But this is a different type of year where we have to have that flexibility probably, and that, that desire to do the right thing by the player and make sure they're taken care of. So I think that's great feedback. So that'll end in terms of the topics for us. Again, appreciate Kyle and Eric, both of your support and your time and answering some of those questions. We've got a few minutes. Adam, I know you're managing the chat. I don't know if there's any questions that came through or any questions that the group that we have on the call had that we might be able to answer in the next few minutes. And again, if we don't get to those, please, you can type them into the chat and Tim and I can get to them after the call. And Adam, is there anything that showed up in the chat?
No, I think we've been able to answer most of them in the chat. Good questions, and some of it had to do with team stores, but I think we're good.
Okay, that's good. So what you've all been waiting for, we're running right up against the time, is we're going to pull the winner for the 25 sets of uniforms. Seth, are you ready to pull the winner, or have you already pulled the winner?
Yep, I'll put it in the chat now.
Okay, so drum roll. It's going in the chat. I'll do my best drum roll. I don't know if you can hear that, but here's the drum roll for who the winner of the uniforms. And Adam, if you can look at the chat, if you want to. Hey, Stephanie. Awesome.
Stephanie Contreras.
Congratulations. Awesome. Congratulations. So again, appreciate everyone's time today. Hopefully you've got some nuggets of information out of today's meeting. Like we said in the beginning, we at Eastbay are proud to service our schools out there. We're proud to be a partner of the CNAA. We're proud to sort of help and provide any additional information that we can as suppliers of our schools. And if any of you are not using Eastbay, please feel free to reach out to Tim, myself, or Adam. We would be happy and blessed to service any of the schools. And for those of you who are using Eastbay, thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate your business. And again, I thank you all for the time today. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Congrats, Stephanie.
Congrats. Congrats, Stephanie.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. I've never won. I was just talking to my Eastbay guy rep this morning and saying, maybe I'll win.
Yeah. There you go. You won. Awesome.
Awesome.
We'll be in touch. Thank
Thanks
you.
again, Kyle. Thanks, Eric.
Bye. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
Eric.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sure, guys. Good seeing everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.